this kind of like happened after that.
Where did you meet her? You met her in New York? Or?
Met her in Hawaii, man.
Oh, in Hawaii. Yeah. Once you got
I moved to Hawaii in 2012, bro.
Oh, wow.
Moved to Hawaii 2012.
Just wanted a different scenery or what?
It was just a dream.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, it was a dream of mine for 5 years.
Yeah.
It was a dream of mine for 5 years, and then finally got there, lonely and depressed.
Oh, my God.
So this is a good segue, man, because one of my first questions I want to ask you is, let's say you're sitting right in front of Mitchell from 2 years ago, man.
Yeah.
Like young Mitchell, man. Like what would you tell Mitchell, like, you know, what is important in life? You know what I mean?
Gosh, a lot has changed since the last video. I would definitely say find that business life balance, right? Like, you know, I think Mitchell 2 years ago was so focused on the business. I think I lost track of a lot of important things in life, right? And I think as you get more, you know, as you make more money and as you enjoy more things, you start to realize that, hey, money comes and goes, and you know, family and memories and things like that are forever. And so I think Mitchell 2 years ago had really, and I think I still have the same ambitions, but I think now I'm learning to find breaks, you know, to really time block, you know, specific times where I feel like, you know, hey, I need to step away from the business and just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I see you go fishing a lot. Man.
Yeah, I go fishing a lot.
Tell me about that.
I mean, I got the boat. I don't know if I had the boat back then. I don't remember. But fishing. Yeah. We went fishing for Father's Day. You know, that's something me and my dad enjoy to do together. You know, me and my dad don't have too many hobbies together, so fishing is one that we definitely bond on, and you know, we make memories that last forever. I know both of our dreams were to have a boat, and real estate made it possible. He's a real estate agent too.
Yeah, he just got
he got my
license.
Right? He got licensed
about a year ago.
God, everybody's gotten licensed in my family. My wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Which 2 years ago, I didn't even have a wife. But I was in the working of it. And so now we're married. And so she got her real estate license, which has been awesome. My two cousins have gotten their real estate license. And my dad. So I have 4 people in my family right now that got their real estate license within the last 2 years.
So is this the influence of Mitchell?
I think so. You know, one of my cousins actually, she had actually started kind of dipping into it before I even thought about it, but she hadn't taken the full jump. And I think I just ended up moving to it pretty fast and got into it pretty fast. And as soon as I did, I think it was like motivation for her as well to like, hey, I need to finish this thing. So, but I was the first one out of everybody to become a real estate agent. And I think, you know, them seeing where I went kind of was encouraging to them. Like, oh my God, you know, your whole life can change in a matter of a year or two. You know what I mean? Because my whole world just, you know, went 360. So
same for me, man.
Yeah.
360. Like I probably worked twice as hard as I did before I got my real estate license. But I'm maybe twice as happy.
100%. 100%. You got that time management. You can take, you know, if you need to take a couple days off, you don't got to ask nobody. It's just, it's nice. It's nice. And you don't got to, you know, you sell one house a month. I mean, for most people, that's livable income. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's all you really need. Technically, you don't need to sell, you know, 10 houses a month. I mean, it's nice to do that and build your, you know, yourself up. But I think that's what the great thing about real estate is that once you're settled in it, you don't have to be this crazy salesperson. You can sell, you know, 1-2 houses a month and live a good life, you know? So
how is I'm sure your wife was helping you with your business or be a part of it, but now that she has her license, what's the transition look like?
So she still has her full-time job. As you know, we're going through like this weird period of like a recession / you know, the market's shifting.
You need some stability.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I wanted her to keep her full-time job because she works from home. It's super flexible, so it's not like a big bother to our daily life.
Nice.
And now that she's gotten her real estate license, she's kind of come into her own space where she's very creative, right? She's been getting into the Instagram reels, the Facebook reels. Yeah. She gets like, I mean, she just posted a video like 2-3 days ago that's like at 25,000 views, which is freaking crazy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Like a reel?
Yeah, a reel.
I see you guys doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
We do the TikToks, and TikToks have been pretty good for us too. But we've been getting into that realm, but it's all by her. Like, she's the one who's been wanting to, you know, we have our own YouTube page now that she created. Nice. She's been doing the reels. She does like all these cool things. She's gotten me really into TikTok and has helped me grow that business as well. So she has added a whole nother side of I think, things I was missing out on. So that aspect, she has helped me grow. And then on the administrative side, you know, like as far as like, you know, putting in offers, keeping me organized. I was not an organized person. Even 2 years ago, I was not organized. I'm still not 100% today, but I'm a lot better because of her.
You know, there's something I live by is that a great woman will turn a good man great.
100%.
You know, and
100%.
you know, I've learned that from my wife.
Yeah.
She's taught me a lot how to
Yep.
be a man
Yep.
and how to be successful. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Let me
agree.
transition to another question I have. Is one thing I really respect about you, Mitchell, is that you know you do have a business background way before you got into real estate.
Yep.
And I think what a lot of people do, especially like younger agents, and not say age-wise, but people who kind of get into business,
Yeah.
they come in with the mindset that you know I'm just gonna make it happen, you know, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But really, even being a real estate agent, it's a business, man. And I kind of want to get into this. Like, how do you operate? What kind of business do you operate? Like, if I wasn't into real estate, someone off the street asks you, like, what business do you do? What would you say?
So are you just talking about in the aspects of like how I have it organized, or what do you mean?
Yeah, just you know, do you sell coffee? Do you sell ice cream? You know, like what kind
I
of?
think the business I operate is a business of customer service. I think
Yeah.
the business of helping people, right?
Yeah.
I think that's well, you can look at all the money, you can look at all the fame and the you know the fun, the money part of it is what
Yeah.
most people look at, right? Like I talked about back when we first did this interview.
Yeah.
But in the back of all that is helping people and really customer service, right? It
Nice.
comes down to the person, it comes down to the family, it comes down to helping somebody to achieve something they never
Yeah.
thought possible. And I think that is what excites me. That's why I'm in this business, and I think that's why I've been successful, because I think a lot of the, you know, like the younger agents, they come into this business, they see all the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
But they don't really grasp the concept of it, right? We're in a people business. We're not in the sales business.
Right.
It's a sell. I mean, we do sell houses, right? But there's so much more behind that.
Yeah.
That is what makes a good real estate agent
Yeah.
good, right? Like, I mean, back when, even now, you know, I'm not getting paid the same. I mean, you know, we
Right.
our commissions are a lot lower than what we used to
Yeah.
make. You know, people are trying to sell their houses because they know they don't need a real estate agent as
Right.
much, so they're trying to, you know, get a discount on the commissions.
Or
For me,
iBuyers.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
for me, like, I know there's a lot of real estate agents that are like, hey, don't cut your commission. I'm not a discount agent.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if I have to cut my commission to make somebody's dream happen,
Yeah.
I will, without a doubt. Because I
Right.
know at the end of the day, that's a relationship I'm going to have forever. And that's
Right.
that's going to be a raving fan that, you
Right.
know, might send me their, you know, their mom, their dad, their
Nice.
aunt, their uncle. So I know that creating a long-term relationship is worth no amount of money, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you can't buy.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the super important thing, is that you put those two aspects first when you're doing this business, and
Yeah.
everything else will come after. So that's what I would say that I'm in the business of, you know, helping people in customer service. That's my my two items that I would say are most important.
Nice.
and that operates my business.
Man, I gotta say, I did not expect that answer.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great because it kind of shows you where your heart is.
Yeah.
And why, you know, someone like you is gonna last in this industry.
Yeah.
So, Mitch, what's the most rewarding deal you've had to this date?
Oh, that's a good one. I've had a lot of stressful ones, but I'm trying to think of the most rewarding one. I would say the most rewarding one, and I think the one at the end where I guess at the end of it, I was like, it just felt amazing, right? It felt like, wow, we got to the finish line. Like, this is amazing. I had this one client. She had lived in this small little home, you know, paying, I think, like $1,000 for rent. The house was like super small, like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. It was super old house. And she came to me and she came to me very unconfident, right? Just like, hey, Mitchell, I'm just reaching out. I know I can't buy a house, but can you just tell me I can't buy a house? Like, I just want to hear it from you that I can't buy a house. And I'm like, tell me your whole situation. Tell me what everything looks like, and we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
And so she gave me all the rundown of like her, you know, her financials, things like that.
Right.
And I was like, it's a possibility. Like, and I think she didn't have a whole lot of money saved, so she was like, there's no way I can buy a house. And back at the time, down payment assistance was a really good deal. Now it's kind of crazy high in interest rate. But going back to that moment, I got her with my lender, Moses Garcia, who I still work with today. And he looked at her financials, he looked at her credit. And the good thing is that she was not, you know, obviously she wasn't the wealthiest person, but she kept her credit really good.
Nice.
And I tell people, like, credit is a sign of responsibility. It tells the banks, hey, how responsible are you?
How trustworthy
And so even
you are.
though she, you know, was making ends meet, and she didn't have a whole lot after that, she still had great credit, and that showed a lot about what kind of person she was. And so Moses found this program specifically that was perfect for her situation, where she could get everything covered. She got her down payment covered, and she got, I think, like, I would say at least 50% of her closing costs covered. So that would only require her to maybe have 1,000 or 2,000, which she had saved, right? And so when I told her she's qualified, she still couldn't believe it. She's like, no way, like, there's just no way. Like, and this is she's a single mom. She was actually raising her granddaughter. So I think there was a situation where I guess her daughter couldn't take care of her daughter couldn't take care of her granddaughter, so she actually took over that spot. I don't know the whole situation behind it, but I just know that every time I would meet with her, she was with her granddaughter. She took care of her granddaughter, and there was no questions asked. Like, she wasn't bitter about it. It was just something that, I knew she felt like she had to do. And so that even encouraged me more, that, like, I wanted to help her. I wanted to help her and her granddaughter get into a house where they could say they own it, and something that's, in better shape, because she was complaining about, certain aspects not being fixed, the landlord not fixing things. And so I was really determined to get her into something. I think you could just feel how genuine she was.
What do you mean by feel that?
Like, when you talk to her, you could just feel her humbleness. You could feel, I'm a big faith guy, right? So, like, she had a lot of faith, and she was one of those people that put in God's hands, and I could relate to that. And I loved her personality. She was never a negative person, like, about her situation. She was not a complainer. There's a lot of people that are in that low situation that just want to complain about their situation. She never once did. She says, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I wanted to make sure it happened. So
is that why this deal is, like, very rewarding? Because you kind of made it happen out of thin air.
I did.
With your work in faith in God, and then also your knowledge and competency in real estate. You're like, you knew how to guide her. The right way. That
was very rewarding, and just the fact that, like, every time she thought, like, it wasn't gonna go her way, things went her way. That was super humbling, and it was just a cool experience. So we got her qualified. It took us a while to find the house because she wasn't qualified. She was qualified in that, below 200 range, which was very competitive.
Very competitive.
And this was during the COVID times when there were still multiple offers going on. So we got her qualified, and we started looking. And every house we would get bid out on. We would get, there would be, it was like 175, there was like 10, 15 offers at that price point. And so there was this one house, and we had been looking at it. We actually had put a bid on it when it first became available. Well, we lost. And it was like, okay, we'll keep moving on. I think this was probably the 10th offer that we had put in. So I know she was getting discouraged. I was at the point where I was like, dang it, it was not discouraging for me, but it was definitely tiring, right? And so it just so happened that the realtor calls me. Well, she had told me, I think it was like a Monday, that our offer hadn't got accepted. And then I think by that Thursday, she's like, hey, we're going to come back on market. Y'all were our second best offer. Does y'all's offer still stand? And I was like, yes, our offer still stands. And so the realtor's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and accept your offer. And so I called her, and I remember this phone call because she was just super emotional. She just couldn't believe it. She just didn't think it was going to be possible for us to win an offer. And so she was super emotional, and I was so happy. And so we worked through the deal. Everything worked out. We got some repairs done. Everything worked out the way it just worked out smooth. It was like butter after that point. But we had been through so much, it felt like something's going to happen, right? It felt like there's no way. This is too good to be true. And so the very end comes, we close. And I remember because they had to send a notary to her house because she worked. This lady worked. That's another thing that was super rewarding, is that this lady worked every single day, and she worked hard. Like, I could never get a hold of her during the day because they wouldn't allow her to have her phone, but she would be at work every day. I felt like it was every day. And she would have the same routine. She had to go get her granddaughter. As soon as she picked up her granddaughter, it would be like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. She had to cook dinner, and then she would start the same thing over again every day. And I was just like, man, like, to barely be able to work this hard and to barely be able to make ends meet it didn't feel right? And that's why I wanted to make sure that we achieved the goal of getting her a house. And so so she got out of work, and we had to send a notary out because obviously the title company's closed after 5. So we sent the notary out. We went to her house, and she just couldn't believe it. Like while she was signing the document, while she was signing the documents, she's like, "Am I really gonna get this house? Like, is this gonna
Even
go
at
through?"
closing?
Even at closing, like she hadn't packed. She hadn't packed
Yeah.
not one box because she still did not believe it. She was
Wow.
like, "So if I sign these documents, I mean, is there still a chance it could fall through?" I'm like, "No, we're at closing. Like, this is it. This is it.
It's the
You know
blue
what I
ink.
mean?" And she's like, she signed them, and I felt like it still didn't sink into her yet.
Yeah.
And so it got funded. It got funded the next day, and then we got her keys, and I met her at the house with her keys. And when I gave her the key, she's like, "So I can go in there and I can start." Like she still was
this
just like,
mine?
"I can start moving stuff in. Like I can move in today. Like is this
Yeah.
mine? Like or am I
Yeah.
renting it out?" Like she didn't understand, and I was like, "Yes, this is yours." And her
Nice.
granddaughter was there, and her granddaughter like walked in the house, and the house is like a big upgrade compared to where she was at. And they were picking out the rooms, and as we were walking the house, she started envisioning where she could put her stuff
Nice.
at. And she came from such a small home that she's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna have to buy more stuff. Like, there's no way I can fill this house. But that was just the most rewarding feeling. And you know, it got a little emotional at the very end when I said bye and I left the house. But we did a big hug. You know, I gave her a big hug and I just told her like, thank you for allowing me to help you.
Yeah.
And she just was like, I still can't believe it, Mitchell. Like you've been a blessing from God. And she just felt like everything, you know, it was still unbelievable.
Nice.
And so, you know, we took a picture together and it was such a great
Yeah.
moment. And I think that was probably the most rewarding feeling, because that is what I live for. That's
Yeah.
why I did this business, is
Yeah.
to change people's lives, especially
Yeah.
people who, you know, grew up from a less fortunate background and are able to actually buy a home.
Right.
It's the most
And then
rewarding
you're
feeling.
you're like the vehicle to help them achieve that goal. you know?
Exactly.
I can tell by just the tone of your voice and energy and like
Yeah.
how passionate you are about
Yeah.
the story, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing, man.
It was
I'm sure
awesome.
you have a lot more
Yeah.
of those kind of stories,
Yeah.
but it's always interesting to hear the one that sticks out
Yeah.
the most. What was her name?
Her name was Lorena.
Lorena.
Yeah, Lorena.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
she was. We still keep in touch to this
Nice.
day. I follow up with her. She's enjoying her house to
Nice.
the max. She's
Shout out to Lorena. You watching this?
Yes, yes. You've definitely, you know, you're one of my most rewarding clients, and you know, I'm so happy for you still to this day.
Nice.
It's something I think about all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Mitch, you talk about helping others buy
Mm-hmm.
property, right? And achieving their goals. What have you done for yourself to buy property?
So actually, a lot has happened in the last 2
Yeah.
years. I think like when COVID, COVID was still in the mix back in March of last year.
Right.
But I ended up, I just hit my 2 years in March, or actually April of last year. I hit my 2 years in real estate, so I could buy a house. And I
Yeah.
knew as soon as I got my 1099, I was like, I'm going.
yeah.
I'm getting
I'm
buying
calling.
houses.
Yep.
Yeah. And so as soon as I did that, I contracted on 2 houses right away.
Yeah.
2 off market houses. Both people had hit me up, you know, via Facebook and had told me they were in just a situation where they needed to sell their house, or and one of them needed to sell their house and buy another house. So I jumped on both situations, and I ended up getting under contract for both houses.
Nice.
And so I bought 2 houses in March, and then I bought another house. I bought those 2 houses, and then we still had our current house that we were living in. And then I bought a primary home. I signed on it also. I think in April. I signed on it.
That's the new build?
The new build.
Yeah.
I signed on a new build in April.
So March to April, new
yeah,
build.
yeah,
Boom.
another one.
Man,
So
you're
I was
gung-ho.
at that moment, you know, I had 3 under contract, and then I still had our current home.
Yeah.
So I ended up closing on the first 2 the next month in April. I closed on those 2, and then the new build I signed up in April didn't close until December. So it took about, I don't know, like 6 months or 8 months or something
To build?
to build.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had signed on it when it was dirt.
Yeah.
And so that was going to be our next home. We were going to leave our current first home,
Yeah.
and then go into that home. So everything worked out.
What was
So-
the plan with the other
the other 2?
homes?
So the other 2, one of them needed some TLC, so
Yeah.
I got it a little bit renovated. I
Yeah.
you know, changed the flooring out, new paint, exterior, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I rented it out. Now, I rented it out to a client.
Yeah.
So when I first got it, the client who sold it to me needed to stay there until their house was done. So I think I rented it out to them for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Once they moved out, then I did the TLC work. I got the renovations going,
Nice.
and then I have it now a permanent renting in there till next year.
Nice.
And so It's still rented out to this day. I bought it for a great price, and I'm making a profit on it every month.
Nice.
It's over there on the Shanefield area, and then I have another one that the other one that I had bought. The seller actually wanted to rent it out from me after I bought it from them. The reason is because
Almost same situation.
yeah, they
Yeah.
needed. They actually weren't buying. They're still there today, but they just wanted a lower payment. So I bought it from them, and then I just rented it out to them for a lower payment.
Yeah.
So it worked out, and they're great tenants.
Yeah.
And so
But
those
did that
two
cost you
houses-
money? Because it sounds like maybe you had to pick up the difference.
No. So like their payment was kind of high because when they
Yeah.
had first bought the house, they had bought it from a program that was extremely high interest rate.
Oh.
So when I bought it, I think I locked in like a 2.9 or
Yeah.
something. So my payment was lower than their payment.
Wow.
And
And
I
you're
also-
buying
yeah.
a higher.
Yeah. So I actually bought it. I bought it from them for what they originally paid for it. So I got it for a little bit of a discount.
Yeah.
So it was I rented it out to them
had that
because I was
spread.
able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I have those two rented out. So then our original house, the one we were living in, since like 2019, when we moved into our new house in December, I rented that one out as well.
Mm-hmm.
So now I had those 3 rentals, and then I had our primary.
Yeah.
And then January of this year, I came across another house that clients needed to move out. They
Yeah.
were closing on their new house,
Yeah.
and their house had been sitting on the market for like 60 days or something.
Yeah.
So I offered them a price that would work for me, and it worked out for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought the house from them. It's actually 2 minutes away from Lackland Air Force Base. So I was like, you know what? I really want to get into the Airbnb business. I had a
Yeah.
friend of mine who has a couple, and he was just killing it. He
Yeah.
was just. I
Right.
was like, I was making a couple $100s on the rentals, and he
Right.
was making a couple
$1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like I need to get into that.
Yeah.
And he told me he's like, hey, I sold all my rentals. He's like, I got straight into the Airbnb business
Wow.
because that's where it's at. And so that's what I did. So for this next house that I bought in January of this year, I renovated it, and then it's currently Airbnb. But right now it's Airbnb long term because I have clients who I put in there
Yeah.
that are waiting for their house to be built. So
Yeah.
the cool thing is that my clients who I'm working with, a lot of them just need short-term rentals, right?
Yeah.
But they don't want to get their eyes poked out.
Right.
So what I do is I just rent them out my houses.
Yeah.
So right now my Airbnb is fully furnished,
Yeah.
but it's getting rented out by one of my clients who is
So
also waiting.
it's kind of locked in for them.
It is.
But it's still in the Airbnb market. So when
Yeah.
they get
so
out.
when they get out, it's going
boom.
straight to Airbnb.
Nice.
And like I said, I'm 2 minutes away from Lackland. I know that Lackland has graduations every Friday.
Yeah.
So that should work out in my favor once the time comes.
That's awesome. Tell me about the difference between rentals and Airbnb, just from the short period you have.
So obviously rentals are rentals, right? Like you get people in there, for it could be 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
You do a lease agreement, which could be, like I said, 6 months to a year. There's a lot more rules. Well, actually, there's not a lot more rules. I feel like, I guess they're similar in a way. But a lease agreement, you have one client that's there for long term, right?
Right.
And then they sign a lease agreement. You set a set and sort of rules. With the Airbnb, it's short-term rentals, right?
Yeah.
So people rent out, your house for 3 days. You charge $200 per day. That's
Yeah.
$600. Obviously, you got to have somebody there to clean it every
Mm-hmm.
3 days or every 2 days. You have to make sure you have very specific rules because obviously Airbnbs, a lot of people like to use them for parties.
Yeah.
They like to take advantage, I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes. So you definitely have to set the expectation up
You're
front. I feel more than because when you're doing Airbnb, you're not checking these people's background. You're not like, hey, what's your credit? Hey,
Not like a rental.
No, not like a rental.
So
right?
a rental
Rental
sounds like a
looks-
rental. You have to like investigate and
You
vet
do.
the clients.
You do,
to the
yeah.
bone. But with Airbnb, they just kind of like
come and go as long as they're 18. They don't got nothing crazy. They've never been reported by they had never violated Airbnb rules where they're not kicked off the website. They can rent it
so
out.
with rentals, you vet them.
Yeah.
You run the application process. When it comes to Airbnb, someone else or system does that.
Yeah,
It's a little bit out of your control.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
It's so obviously there's pros and cons to both, right? Like
Yeah.
the pros is like for a rental is that you pick the tenant you want in there, right? Or
Right.
you approve their application and they're gonna be there long term. So you're just like, hey, stay here. And then you're done, right? Obviously, there might be repairs. There might be things that come up. It's nothing crazy.
Right.
Airbnb, you got to be on it. You got to have somebody managing those because you
Yeah.
have people constantly in and out, in and
Right.
out, in and out. You have to have somebody cleaning it. You have to make sure that nothing's going
Yeah.
on around there.
Yeah.
It's just a constant it's more work for
Yeah.
sure with Airbnb, but the profit's there, right?
Yeah.
There's more profit with the work. So I think that it definitely requires more maintenance and more attention than a rental does, but the profit's there, right? And then also with Airbnb, you have to have the right location because you can't just rent out.
So important, right?
Yeah, because people are renting your Airbnb for a certain purpose. They want to be around something, or they
Right.
want to be where things are going on. So
Right.
you have to make sure the location's right. With the rental, people just need somewhere to be. People
Right.
just need somewhere to stay because work, they're living there
Yeah.
temporarily, whatever the case
Want
may
to
be.
be close to family.
Yeah, I want to be close to family. So you can have a rental anywhere in San Antonio.
Yeah.
It's going to get rented out. But
Right.
Airbnb, you can't just have it anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked the Lackland one as a Airbnb because I knew that there's going to be families coming out of town to see their
Yeah.
loved ones that graduating. So I knew it was a perfect location.
Yeah, it's good.
And then what I did is I did my research. And so I looked at Airbnbs around the area to make sure those were rented out. Because if they're not rented out, why am I going to add another one?
Right.
And so those were getting rented out, and so it just everything led to that, to me creating that Airbnb.
Yeah.
But like I said, and also with the Airbnb, and I think also rental, you have to get a permit from the city
Yeah.
to have a short-term rental.
Right.
You have to tell the city, hey, this is my layout, this is what exits I have, all
And
those
you have
things.
to pay hotel tax, right?
Yeah, you got to pay a hotel tax, all that
Yeah.
stuff. So you have to report all that because you got to taxes are there.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely more of a responsibility, but the profit is definitely there as well.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on my second Airbnb right now too.
Nice. Tell us about
we
it.
came across a house on the northwest side,
Nice.
really close to SeaWorld, all that good stuff. It has a pool, which is going to be
Nice.
definitely great for the
Especially
Airbnb
for the
because
summer.
people love
Yeah.
pools. And so we're actually in the process of renovating it right now. We haven't closed on it yet. We're in the process of closing on it, but we have like bids for the renovations and all that.
Yeah.
So that once we do close on it, we can start working full force on it. But that one's gonna be nice. It's gonna be a 4-bedroom. It's over 2,000 square feet. It's gonna have a in-ground pool in the back. And so we're super excited about that one. I've already looked at Airbnbs in the area, and they're pretty popular.
Yeah.
So that's another one.
Is that
coming
house
up.
down the street?
It's like right off of like Petrenko and 604.
Okay.
And so it's in a good spot. And and then like I said, I did my research and there's a lot of stuff happening. So that's a really popular area for Airbnbs,
Yeah.
and so it's gonna work out. It should work out.
So it sounds like you have a lot of real estate investments going on.
Yep.
Why
Yeah.
is that important to you? Like, are you just addicted to buying houses? Is it a problem, or is it strategic and there's a
It's
purpose?
definitely strategic, right? I'm a real estate agent, right? And I tell everybody like the best time to buy real estate was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Because as you can see, houses
Right.
are appreciating at all-time high.
Right.
Now I know we are going through a transition period, and there's tons of talk about like the real estate market crashing and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, everybody has their facts and their beliefs on what's going to happen.
Right.
And I think that, we're still in a very hot season.
Yeah.
I think that, San Antonio and Texas in general, we're still one of the cheapest real estate markets out there. I
Yeah.
mean, you go to California, everybody talks about, you sell your little shack for $500,000, you can get a
Yeah.
mansion here.
And what's most important is that there's so much more houses that need to be built in San Antonio.
Exactly.
The need
Exactly.
is still there.
Yep.
know.
The need's still there, and it's not going to stop because I just don't. I think it's going to continue to rise. Right.
Right.
Right now, I do see that prices are kind of steadily. They're not rising as fast as they were during
Yeah.
COVID. Now they're kind of coming to like a.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good thing because I think it's needed, right?
Yes,
Like
yeah.
a lot of my first-time home buyers were getting priced out. Like
Right.
these 1,200 square foot houses used to be 180, now they're 250,
Yeah,
300,000.
right.
And it's like that's just a 1,200 square foot house. Like
Yeah.
how is it so expensive?
Yeah.
So I think it was definitely needed. I enjoy this market a lot more
Yeah.
because I'm not having to give everybody's firstborn
Yeah.
child to win an
Yeah.
offer. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
It's a lot easier,
Yeah.
and your clients have more time to think about it. Right. Before
Right.
it's like, hey, as soon as we walk out this door, I need to know if you need to put an offer because
Yeah.
the deadline's tonight.
Yeah.
So now it's like, hey, I won't say like take your time on it, but at least now they can think it through a little more.
Right.
You don't have to offer a ridiculous amount
Right.
because now the market slowed down because the interest rates are higher, right?
Yeah.
And you have more serious buyers. So like for example, I have some listings, and I've had like I haven't had as many showings as I would necessarily have in the crazy market,
Right.
but those showings are more serious buyers because
Yeah.
I'll have 5 showings and I'll have 2 offers.
Yeah.
Compared to last time, I would have 20 showings and I would have 5 offers. So like
Yeah.
the statistic of like the showing
Yeah.
converting to an offer is a lot
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So I think that the market is definitely, it needed this correction, right? It needed to
Right.
slow down because it was
Yeah.
just getting too out of
Out of
control.
control, yeah.
And so unfortunately interest rates are high, but like, we promote to everybody,
Yeah.
date the interest rate, marry the price, right?
Right.
Because you can always refinance. You can always change that interest
Right.
rate, but you can't change what you paid for the house.
Right.
So that's why I tell people, like, you might end up getting an interest rate you're not happy with, but you can always refinance. And the interest
Yeah.
rates aren't going to stay this high forever, right? I have no estimate on when they're going to go down, but I would assume at end of the year, beginning of next year.
Yeah.
That's just my my kind of predict.
Yeah.
What I project, but I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just, everybody thinks that, everybody has their own beliefs on what's going to happen. But that's kind of what I think about it, and like I said, that's why I'm buying so much real estate, because I know that it's a it's an investment that's always gonna pay
Yeah.
off, right?
Yeah.
You never know when you invest in crypto or when
Right.
you invest in other things.
Yeah.
There's such a fragile market, but with real estate, somebody's
can
always
hold
gonna
it.
need somewhere to live.
You can hold
Exactly. Like I know you were telling me about,
Yeah.
your parents. They cashed out big time,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But I think it's gonna continue to go that way. I think every day that I hold on to these
Yeah.
houses, I'm increasing my investment. So
Yeah.
that's
And
exactly why.
I think what you're doing, what's really important to understand for people watching, is that what you're doing is actually building your net worth. Because how old are you?
28.
28. In 10 years from now, those houses are going to appreciate, and you're going to have more equity because you're buying on the
Exactly.
mortgage. And then by the time you're 48, 20
Yep.
years from now, then those houses are almost halfway paid off.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then then you have different faucets dripping some
Yep.
some money to you, same like as a retirement. But with the retirement account, you have to wait until you're 65
Yeah, to get
to
out of it.
retirement to get out, and by then it really depends on what the stock market is doing.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's why I'm a big believer in real estate, and that's why I've been learning about it since 2008.
Yep.
And what's really cool is that like you don't really need that much education in order to execute.
No.
I think the right mindset is important.
Yep.
Mitch, what is your sales volumes year to date, and is it what you project it to be?
So from July of last year to July of this year?
No, January to today.
Oh, January to today.
Year to date.
So I'm right around 20. I think I'm around 25 houses sold.
Yeah.
I think my volume, if I had to guess, because I haven't looked at it like recently.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere around I think I'm around the $7 million mark.
7 million.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. I definitely am behind where I want to be,
Yeah.
just because the market transition. And
Right.
I'm still like working through that. And my main customer is a first-time home buyer, so
Yeah.
this directly affects them.
Right.
But we're still having success. We're still working through it. I think that
What
the
was your
second half of
goal?
the-
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What was your goal in the beginning of the year? Like, did you have a goal in mind you wanted to reach?
Yeah, so my goal obviously this year was to help 100 families.
100
now,
families.
I'm definitely behind track
Yeah.
on that, and I want to get as close as I can to that. Last year I sold right under 70. I sold 65 houses last
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And so this year I'm hoping.
65?
Yeah, 65.
65 units.
Yeah, 65 units. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Just solo.
Yeah, solo agent. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was awesome. And so I want to at least hit that if I
Yeah.
can. I know with everything going on, it's gonna be definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna get there, and I'm just gonna keep pushing hard every day.
So as an entrepreneur, Mitch, how do you handle these shifting markets to make sure that you're always continually growing?
That's a good one. So it's definitely a change of tactic, right?
Right.
Before, when COVID was going on, business was coming to me. I was converting.
Right.
Now I'm having to go out and chase the business a little more, right?
Mhm.
So I'm really just going back to my roots. I'm going back to where I started. I'm going back to, talking to people that, I hadn't talked to in a couple years, talking to my past clients more, really reaching out to people, through social media or, through door knocking.
Yeah.
I'm going back to what I started with,
Yeah.
and I'm really getting back to the roots.
Nice.
So I'm just trying to talk to people more every
Yeah.
day, trying to really get back to the original grind. Because
There's definitely fundamentals in this industry.
there is
you know,
definitely, yeah.
especially being a sales
Yeah.
real estate agent.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's just really getting back to that. And then I promote that to all my, my new agents is like, this is a time where you really have to grind. You really have to hustle. You really have to be talking to people every day. You have to be, it's one of those things where you cannot procrastinate because there's so much going on. There's so many agents out there. It's a little bit competitive.
Yeah.
And so you have to be on your A game all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, man.
Yep.
And let's end with this. Why is it important to set goals in your business?
It's definitely important because if you don't set goals, you don't know where you're going to go, right? So like I set goals for myself every day, and once I hit those goals, if I want to, keep going after that,
Yeah.
it feels good, right? It feels good. It feels like, hey,
Yeah.
the next day I feel satisfactory in the work I've done because
Nice.
I set my goal and I achieved it.
Yeah.
Now, if I didn't have goals, I wouldn't know where to go. I wouldn't know, hey, how many people should I be talking to today? Hey, how many houses do I want to sell this year? I think the motivation also wouldn't be there, right? Because if I'm behind on my goal, I know I need to hustle, right? But if I don't know where my goal's at, I'm never gonna know if I'm behind,
Nice.
or if I'm never gonna know if I'm ahead. And I'm like, dang,
Yeah.
I can take a breather. I can not take a breather, but just really step back a little bit if I
Right.
need to. So to really know where you're at, that's the main reason you want to set your goals and to have something achievable, right? Like you can't say, hey, I want to sell 1,000 houses, but you sold, I don't know, 10 last year. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
and that's a very broad. It's a very broad example, but you really have to have something achievable because
Yeah.
it feels great when you get to that point.
Yeah. So was 100 units this year, was that achievable when you set that goal?
It was achievable when I set that goal. Things have, like, I mean, the market has
Yeah.
shifted, so it's made it definitely more
Yeah.
difficult. I won't say that. I don't like
But
to
it's
use the
not
market as
unre-
an
But
excuse.
it's not unrealistic.
It's not unrealistic.
It's
It's
realistic,
definitely not.
and it was in your track.
It is. Yeah.
And of
yeah.
course, everybody in this industry is being affected in a good way or bad way
Yeah,
of what's
yeah.
going on. But like I was saying, it's very important to like really pivot your strategies.
Yep. Yep.
And it's really cool to hear. It's pretty cool to hear that that you have goals, you set goals, and it's
Yep.
kind of a reflection why you are successful
Yep.
in what you do.
Yep. Yep.
You're a local San Antonio native,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You're a young entrepreneur
Yep.
who operates a really family business with your wife.
Yep.
And it feels like you have so much going on, but you're just getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
what's advice that you would tell to other young Latino mixed local people in San Antonio who either want to start like a food truck business or want to get into real estate or want to start the t-shirt selling business? Like what is important for young entrepreneurs to notice?
I would say don't be afraid to fail, right? Fail as many times as you need to because that's going to get closer to your success, right? A lot of people are such in a rush today to get to success. They're almost putting these unrealistic expectations on themselves, and when they don't achieve it, they're very discouraged. They, quit, whatever the case may be. So just don't be afraid to fail. Do what you need to do. Get up every day because you always got to know there's always somebody out there that's working just as hard, if not harder than you, to get to where you want to be. So.
Nice.
Work
and probably
hard.
doing the same business you're trying to do.
Exactly. So you got to work hard. I think like the statistic that really motivated me in real estate was, 87% of real estate agents won't make it in their first couple years.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't going to be a statistic.
Right.
I knew I wasn't. So every day I woke up, and I felt tired and I didn't want to get out of bed. That statistic came into my mind and I was like, I'm not going to be part of that.
I'm not the one.
Yeah, find something that motivates you. It's hard to stay motivated. It's very hard to stay motivated. So find something that keeps you motivated, whether it's, podcast or, some type of motivational quote every day.
Yeah.
Like I post a motivational quote every morning.
Right, every morning.
And that helps a lot of people, but it also helps me.
Yeah.
So I think it's finding something to stay motivated. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail as many times as you need to. And it goes the same thing like when I door knock, right? I get people that slam the door in my face, but I have that one person that's like, hey, I'm ready to sell next month. And it makes all that, worth it. So just keep going. It's going to get hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
And you have to have that mentality.
Nice.
So that's the biggest advice I can give. Just work hard every day and don't be afraid to fail and just keep pushing through. Consistency.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah.
And I think that's
consistency on the days that you don't feel like it and the days you feel like it even more.
Yeah.
So,
and the reason why I was waiting for you to say that because since I've known you, that's always been like a core principle for you, consistency. And when I first heard it, it's like, why is that important in real estate? Like, and over time I've learned, the power in that word.
It is. It's big.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna wrap up, man. It's been
Sounds
a
great.
pleasure.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you
It's
for
always
having me.
fun, man. This is the
Yes,
second time
yes.
you've been on.
Yep.
Things are changing a little bit.
Yep.
Hoping to take this in a more serious direction.
Yep.
Maybe we'll have you back in a few months, man.
Yeah, I'm down. Hopefully by then, the market's a little better.
Yeah.
And we're more on track with the goal. But thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I always look forward to these talks. And
Right on, man.
thanks for picking my brain.
Let's go, man. Let's go.
Yes,
And we're
let's go.
done. Peace.
Peace. Ooh. Good stuff. Some good questions.